In this video, we're going to take a look at Claude's latest feature, agent teams. And first of all, we're going to take a look at what is agent teams and what is the difference between sub-agents and the agent teams. What problem does agent teams try to solve? And then we're going to dive into how to set this up on your local machine, how we can be able to use TMUX here to basically view all the agent teams members here inside of one terminal sessions inside of Claude Code. And next, we're also going to take a look at how to start the projects, how to manage it, how do we interact with each agent, how do we communicate it, and be able to eventually complete the projects. And lastly, we're going to take a look at how to convert this into a Claude skill so that we can be able to reuse it in the future. So pretty much that's what we can cover in this video, and if you're interested, let's get into it. Alright, so before we jump in, a quick intro for those who are new here. My name is Eric, and I spent years as a senior software engineer at companies like Amazon, AWS, and Microsoft. And I have started this channel to share everything that I learned along the way. From AI and coding to automations, Web3, career developments, and more. All broken down into practical tutorials that you can actually follow. And of course, we also have a school community where you can get access to all the resource, templates, plus our community supports. So if you're ready to level up, make sure to check out my YouTube channel and hit that subscribe button. Now let's get back to the video. Alright, so to get started, first thing first, I want to talk about the difference between agent teams, sub-agents, and default mode, and what problem does agent teams trying to solve. So now let's take this as an example, right? Let's say you're a developer here, you're trying to write the UI component for the upload, the server side for the edge functions, building the matching algorithm, and writing a test, right? That's basically your task. And what happened here is that if you're using a default mode, one agent only has one context window. So if you're going to complete this task with one agent, you will basically complete this task sequentially, which means that you first write the upload the UI component, write the superface edge functions to handle this, building the matching algorithms, and writing tests sequentially one after the other. Now this approach might be slow, but the other problem that is very severe is that the higher the context, the lower the accuracy, which means that as the task getting more complex and the context windows start to fill up, the accuracy start to get lower. And that's really what the sub-agent really try to solve, is that we're trying to reduce the complexity for each agent by having multiple sub-agents here running at the same time. So given the same task, for example, writing the UI, the edge functions, and building the matching algorithms and writing the tests, right? We can literally divide those work into multiple sub-agents where one agent is focused on the UI, the other one is focusing on the backend, the other one is focusing on the matching algorithm. And pretty much we can have the main context window here as become an orchestrator that divide the task into multiple sub-agents. Therefore, we have less context window for each sub-agents right here. But the problem here is that there's no communication between different sub-agents. For example, let's say we have the sub-agent number 1 building the UI for the uploader, and it has defined the data types for that. And let's say we have our sub-agent number 2 here building the edge functions, and it has also defined the data types for that as well. But because there's no communication between the sub-agents, they have no idea if the types that it defines in the front end is aligned with the back end. And what happened then is that after the task is completed, they run the applications, they realize that the types checks are different, then it got an error, right? Because there's no communication on what the sub-agent 1 does that sub-agent 2 have to know about. So that's what the core issue that the agent team here is trying to solve. Where now you can see that we have our agent team, and the team leader here will basically spin up multiple sub-agents. And what's going to happen here is that for each sub-agents, it can be able to communicate to each other. For example, after the backend sub-agents here complete the job, it will basically send the data types that it creates to the front-end sub-agents. And the front-end sub-agent here will take that types that the backend creates and be able to define the types in the front end as well. So that there's no miscommunication and no misalignment between different sub-agents work. And clearly you can see that this is the benefits of agent teams, is that we have a shared communications between all the sub-agents that we have. And to summarize everything, basically the default agent here has only one context window. Sub-agents here have isolated contexts but cannot talk to each other. And the agent teams, on the other hand, can be able to enable like full parallel collaborations between multiple agents, and multiple agents here can directly communicate to each agent right here. So pretty much that's the difference between those 3 modes inside of Claude Code. Alright, so now you know the difference. Let's take a look at how we can be able to set this up on our local machine. But first thing first we're going to do here is to make sure that we have the latest version in our Claude Code in our local machine. So what we're going to do here is I'm just going to jump back to my terminal. Doesn't matter if you're in a project or in a brand new terminal in the root directory. All you have to do here, just do Claude update. And this will basically update the current version to the latest version that we have in our Claude Code. So it's going to check for updates with the latest version. And here you can see that it will basically update my Claude Code with the latest version, which you can see that we have that updated already. So the next thing we're going to do here is basically try to set up the configurations and the TMUX. And TMUX basically trying to do here is basically a way for you to create multiple terminal windows here inside of your terminal so that you can be able to have communications with different agents individually with its own terminal windows. Now, so in this case, to install this, what we're going to do here is just going to do brew install, and we're just going to type in TMUX. and we're just gonna hit enter, and we'll basically install this using Homebrew. Okay, so now you can see that we have this successfully installed. And after we have this installed, here you can see this is where we can have our display mode, which the agent teams here supports two display modes. One is in progress, where we're gonna have one terminal sessions using shift and up down or key to basically select which teammates we wanted to communicate with. Or the other way we can do is to have a split panels, and basically what's gonna happen is you can see everyone's output at once by clicking on the section to interact with it using TMUX. Okay, that's why we're trying to use TMUX here inside of Claude Code. All right, so now to basically enable the TMUX here inside of Claude Code, all we had to do here, just run this command in the root directory. So now I'm just gonna open a terminal right here and basically paste that command. And what's gonna happen here is basically going to enable the Claude Code agent teams mode to be true, and also the TMUX split panels here to be true as well. So here I'm just gonna enter this, and we basically have those settings set in place. All right, so now what we can do here is basically start our TMUX new sessions with Claude. So what we can do is we're just gonna run this command right here, and I'll make sure to put this inside of our school community so you can get access to this entire guide inside of our video resource. So all we have to do here is I'm gonna first cd into my desktop and cd into my bookkeeping applications. And then what's gonna happen, I'm just gonna paste that command right here for TMUX new sessions. So currently I'm inside of the project I'm trying to build, and simply I'm just gonna run this command right here, and you can see that this is what we have. Okay, so we're inside of TMUX mode. And now what we're gonna do here is basically try to run Claude with the dangerously skip permissions, and I'm just going to have a Claude Code sessions inside of the TMUX mode. All right, so first thing first, here you can see that it's prompted saying that yes, running in the bypass permission mode. I'm just gonna say yes, accept. And here you can see that we have our Claude Code sessions inside of this current project directory. All right, so now once we have the setups done and also the overview, now let's take a look at how we can reuse it, how we can reuse the agent teams inside of our projects to basically start it up, be able to manage it, be able to shut it down, be able to build our projects using agent teams. So in this case, I'm just gonna come back to my terminal here. And what I'm gonna do here is I'm just gonna copy this prompt and paste it into Claude Code. And here's what this prompt says. So basically the goal is we want to research the direct bank connections, either through these providers right here, and that can be able to automatically import transactions into our applications. And that's the goal. And basically what we want to do here is that this is the keyword, is to create a team. And basically if we were to look at documentation on how to trigger the agent teams, all we had to do here to specify the create a agent teams to explore, to build something, to research something, right? That will basically trigger the agent team here to run it automatically in your Claude Code. No slash commands, just the keyword on create a agent teams or create a team. So here you can see I just say create a team called this for parallel agents. And after they complete the jobs, we'll basically aggregate the findings into this MD file right here. And I also have give a reference to Jira ticket so they can trigger the Jira MCP server to pull the context about what the ticket is about. And here you can see that we have our different agents. We have our business agents, we have our financial agents, technical architectures, and devil advocates. Let's go through them one by one. So here you can see that we have our agent one here. So what I'd have here for the format is that I have a name, I have the model, and I also have the sub-agent types. Now, of course, I've also made a video here on top of how you can be able to create your own sub-agents for different situations in your application building. Now, of course, if you want to learn more about sub-agents, you can check out this video right here, where you can learn more about how sub-agent works, how you can create your sub-agents, and basically what you can do with your sub-agents, right? So what I did here is I specified the sub-agents that's going to be working on this task, right, for this agents, focusing on the business and products. And the goal here is that it's going to use the web search here to gather the competitor and the market data, and it's going to analyze it, right? Try to analyze the competitors, try to see what are the market fit look like, the user experience, the impact analysis, and try to aggregate those results. And that's what the agent one is trying to do. And we also have our agent two here, which focuses on the financial cost. So which provider we're going to use and what is the cost for that. And we're going to have a cost projection here table to show that. And that's basically agent two for the financial and cost. And then the agent three here is the technical architecture. And notice here that I also changed the model here to be Opus because the work that agent three completes here is going to be very complex. So that's why I assigned the system architect sub-agent here for the Opus model with the technical architecture. We're going to architecture this project by using the abstraction layer. Basically means that it doesn't matter which provider we're going to use, right? We're just going to create abstraction similar to a repository pattern where the application here is going to call that repository or call that abstraction layer for the service. Let's say in the future, we're going to switch from plain to Flinks, simply just changing that service in the config or simply just changing that in the repository, and it will basically affect that from all the applications that will basically use that providers, right? So we're creating abstraction layer to abstract the dependencies, right, for different providers we're going to use. And that's why we have it here. Okay, and here you can see that I also mentioned we're gonna use a memory diagram here for the architecture overview, and these are the skills we're gonna trigger, and these are the sub agents that we're gonna have, right? So you can see that we have our agent 3. Now agent 1 and 3 here, you can see that they are all standalone agents, which means that they don't have to communicate to each other because they're all working on their own task. But for agent 4 here, I specifically mentioned that you can be able to communicate to each agent here directly. And basically this agent here is a general purpose agent. It's basically act as a devil advocate. And it's gonna challenge, stress test any findings from agents 1 to 3 for any task that it's trying to do. So that's basically the 4 agents that I'm gonna spin up, and this is the entire prompt. And lastly, we also have our lead, which is basically our tech lead, that spin up those 4 sub agents here to do the work. And at the end of it, it's gonna aggregate the data and be able to conclude everything like the followings. So basically that's my prompt. And what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna copy this, come back to my terminal, and I'm just gonna paste it right here. All right, so then in this case, I'm just gonna run this and let's take a look at what it does. All right, so now you can see that it's gonna set up the research team here. First, take a look at the Jira ticket by calling the Jira MCP server. All right, so once we have the full context from both Jira and the existing backlog, now it's going to create a team and spin up 4 research agents. So here you can see it's going to create the 4 agent teams, basically try to set up the task tracking, spin up all 4 research agents here in parallel. All right, so now you can see that we have 2 sub agents here spin up. One is the business products, the other one is the financial cost. And we can literally just type in anything here inside of those sub agents here to communicate. And here you can see that it's going to spin up another sub agent here called the technical architect, which is going to do the work. And I can be able to type in anything here, right, to communicate with the different sub agents. And lastly, we also have our devil advocate here got spun up, which will basically question everything that the agent here is trying to do. Now, if you want to switch between here, you simply just use the keyboard here to do the Control B, right? So you can see Control B, I can switch over to the main chatbot here. I can do tab, here's what I have. So check on the devil advocate's progress, right? And if I want to switch over to like specific agent, for example, I want to switch over to the architecture, I just do Control B. You can see that at the bottom here changed to architecture design. So now if I were to type, you can see that I have switched over to the architecture. I can also switch over to the green side, which you can see here. So the hidden bank interaction cost, right? By using the Control B up arrow and down arrow, simply just looking at this, it'll switch it over. And I can also shift it over to the open bank research questions. I can also be able to say things like, hey, how's it going? How's it going? I can be able to interact with this agent. But clearly, if you just want to follow through instead of here in the terminal, I can just Control B left, and it'll basically navigate me here to the root, which here you can see I can be able to talk to the main agent here, the orchestrator, which will basically orchestrate the entire thing. Okay, so in this case, I'm just gonna wait for a bit until everything synthesizing for the final research reports. All right, so now you can see eventually we have the entire research has complete. And if you want to scroll up and down, simply you just do Control B, and using the square bracket, the left square bracket, it'll basically help you to scroll up and down. Here you can see I was able to scroll up and down here to figure out, okay, what has been done, right? So we have the output files, the agent 1, the agent 2, the results, right? And we also have the research, and here we also have the entire research summary, and all the files have been added, right, which we can see here, okay? So pretty much that's how we can be able to use the agent team here to start it, to manage it, to complete it, okay? All right, so in this case, let's take a look at what the result look like by simply navigating to VS Code. And I'm just gonna open this in preview here. And here you can see that this is our final report. So first thing first, you can see that we have our table content. So we have our go or no go recommendations. So should we implement this feature or not implement this feature, right? And we also have the provider recommendations for using this feature. What is the cost breakdown, the architecture if we're gonna build this, the risk, and also the implementation phases, and the appendix and such. So here you can see this the final reports. So we have, okay, what are the reasons why we should go with this? Because all the competitors are using this, because this will save time for the consumers. And then there's also the list of against, so why we should not use this feature. For example, only 53% of the consumers comfortable sharing their financial data. It can also be a barrier of entry for a small platform like this, right? There's also the connection reliabilities, and here is the provider recommendation after it has done the research. So if we're going to only focus on Canada, then that's going to be Flanks. If we're going to use the US expansions, we might want to choose a different providers. So pretty much this is the breakdown, and here is the cost, here's the pricing, so stuff like this, okay? So this is the provider strategy. So for the 1,000 user, maybe we're going to focus on the Canadian first. And for 1,000 to 2,000, we're going to expand to US market. This is what we have here, scale, so stuff like this, okay? And why not use other providers? It gives you the reason. And here's the cost summary. So per provider cost at scale. So let's say if user only has 2 bank accounts, right? Roughly for 100 users, this is how much it will be charged. And because there is different tiers for playing where, if you have more users, each user here is going to pay less. So that's basically what you get here, okay? And of course, there's also the flanks here. So let's say if we only want to focus on flanks, this is how much it costs, okay? So pretty much that's the comparison. And the architecture recommendation here, you can see this is all the things that it creates for the abstraction layer. And also here you can see the database schema, right? The jobs, the connected accounts, ID, the expanded column here for the bank transactions, right? So stuff like this. And there's also the bank connection providers here. So it has to scan through the documentations and try to create something like this that we're going to use inside of our application, like disconnect, get the account details, sync the connections, or refresh the authorizations here, stuff like that. Okay. So pretty much that's pretty much the entire research. Overall, I won't go too much in detail here. There's also individual file, but pretty much that's how we can be able to use the agent teams to spin up multiple sub agents here to run it, to manage it, and be able to finish it. All right, so lastly, what I want to talk about is basically how you can convert everything here into a Claude skill. Because running this could be challenging, right? You tell what to do, what to research, and you have to write a long prompt just like what you see here. And so instead of like creating a Claude skills from scratch by simply just prompting it, what I recommend to do is that after you finish the entire run, which here you can see this is the entire run, and all I have to do here just basically prompt the Claude here after I finish a session, and I'm just simply going to say, based on this conversation that we have, can you create a skill that I can be able to reuse it in the future? And simply all I had to do here, just pass the parameter on exactly what's the research topic or what's the Jira ticket, and simply you can be able to run it and be able to find the context or be able to give the research idea here, like what we just set up today with 4 sub agents. Can you create a skill? And that's basically my prompt. And I'm just going to run this and have it to basically create a skill based on this current conversation that we just went through. All right, so now you can see that after it has created a skill, this is basically how we can use it. We simply just do /research team and we basically put the ticket number, right, for the Jira ticket, or we can also be able to specify that in the free text mode. There's also the custom output directories, so stuff like this, right? We can be able to use that. Literally, I can be able to use a test topic here and do that. Okay, so pretty much that's how we can be able to reuse it by simply just building a skill and be able to spin up those 4 sub agents that we just mentioned. And if you actually want to learn more about the skill, you can click on the skill, click on the research team that you just created, and clearly you can see that we have the 4 agents here, right? So phase 1 is going to be research, spin up 3 sub agents with fresh context, and we also have the challenge here, which is devil advocate. Basically try to read through all the research file and challenge the assumptions. And then the phase 3 here is reading through all 4 files, write a final report. So pretty much that's how it works. We put everything into a skill so that we can easily just reuse that going forward. All right, so pretty much that's it for this video. In this video, we went over what is agent teams, how is it different compared to like sub agents and the default mode, and what is the problem that agent teams is trying to solve, as well as how we can be able to set up the agent teams here using TMUX, and also how we can be able to start a session, manage the session, and also shut down the session as well. And eventually we can be able to create a Claude skill here to reuse this going forward without us have to repetitively communicate to each individual sub agents here to do so. So pretty much that's it for this video. And if you do find this video, please make sure to like this video, consider subscribe for more content like this, and I'll make sure to put the entire guide on how to do this inside of the school community so that you can be able to copy this and run it on your local machine step by step. So with that being said, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in this video.